My name is Mario Mata. I took Great Questions in the fall of 2020.
Fall of 2019.
Spring 2019.
Spring semester of 2018.
I was actually in Great Questions after I received my associates.
Fall 2016, so it's been a while, and I still have great memories from the class.
If you're a student for the first time coming into college, Great Questions is such a fun way to start it, and it's a class where the professors are going to challenge you in a way that you haven't been challenged before, because they're not going to give you the easy ways to succeed in the class that you're used to.
If you're going into college for the first time, you're gonna enroll at AC and you're taking Great Questions, I think it's gonna really just expand your mind. Especially if you're coming out of high school or if you're coming into college, just like at me, 5 years later, I went into college. It was something that I never really got to have these discussions on. I never really got to have these very open-ended dialogues and just speaking what's so much on my mind, I would say, and not feeling like I was wrong about what I was saying.
It was a very empowering class as a student. So I came in as a dual credit student. I know a lot of other students come in as dual credit, and you're coming from a high school scenario where you do not have power as a student. You are a little cog in a machine and you're being churned through. And Great Questions completely shifted that paradigm of learning, of intellect, of power in a classroom dynamic. And it really made me realize that I can have these high-level discussions and I should have them, and all of my peers should too.
And we also had to be very vulnerable. I'm willing to speak up and possibly be wrong and share ideas with a group of people who at the beginning were strangers. We grew to be friends, and I think gaining that confidence and that ability to put forward an idea even if I wasn't sure it was right was valuable for the seminar type classes I took at UT as well.
Great Questions set me up to, actually the class set me up to better speak, and when it was my turn to raise my hand in the upper division classes at UT. So I think that's what helped me out the most, is to be comfortable with my voice, projecting out with everyone else and stuff. Yeah.
You were expected to come in, you were expected to read. The journal entries helped a lot, because for some people it's better to get their thoughts on paper and then you can just read off of that. But for me, it's almost been like a one-to-one recreation of the experience I had in the Great Questions program. So I could say, in a sense, undergraduate, I feel, did not really do anything to prepare me for a PhD program, because so much of undergraduates kind of read and regurgitate at the university level. But ironically, it was things I did at ACC that really prepared me for something I was going to do years later.
College can be really stressful, and there's a lot of times where a lot of classes just feel like checking a box. Conjugate this verb in Spanish, learn this chemistry thing, and that's valuable. But I think a class where it's not just about your grades, and it's also about what do you take away as a person, what do you take away as a group.
This class exposes you to texts that are critical in the way that people think now. All these texts that we're exposed to, they're still applicable. They're still relevant. So I feel if you're serious about getting educated, start with the texts that form the foundation of what this is now.
So much of what we kind of do in school is deconstruction, whereas it's an analysis of kind of is this well written? What lessons are we supposed to take from it? Are there intended lessons to be taken from it? Whereas with the Great Questions, more so, you're mining the text for personal relevance. So it's certainly the case, we're all reading the exact same chapters, it's we're reading the exact same story, but the things that people walk away with are gonna be different based on their perspective.
The special thing about Great Questions was it had this sort of different goal where we were also thinking about these big questions of what does it mean to be human? How do you operate in the world? How do you want to see the world and interact with it?
The conversational aspect that we had, we delved into a lot of different kinds of literature, and they were pretty wide-ranging in a way that just expanded the way you thought about things. And because it was very discussion-based, it meant that you were interacting a lot with your classmates. And part of what I love about ACC was how many different kinds of people you had in classmates. And so it made for a really cool conversational environment where you got to hear lots of different viewpoints and lots of different interpretations of how they understood or what they thought about the things that we were reading. And so I think part of how it helped me today is just getting that wide-ranging perspective and point of view, and really appreciating the value and the fun in that.
You can freely be yourself while understanding the text that you're reading, and they can have so many different meanings. And I know some people that took it, they're like, oh, well, I just want to be a business major, and that's just what I want to do. And yeah, that's totally fine. That's awesome. But there's sometimes you'll probably get a connection with something like I did and totally change how your life's going to be.
Everyone has different thoughts on different things. And I think Great Questions really helped me to value those thoughts and process them, but be able to take them into my own life in an effective way, as opposed to they're not just thrown at me and bouncing off. I'm processing them, I'm living with them, and I'm either taking them into my own decision, or I'm saying, okay, this person had a thought, it was valuable, but it's not gonna influence me in this moment.
Like, you're reading a text and you're like, okay, like, you're telling the story of the Odyssey, like going on this great trip, but what's also happening underneath that? What are the deeper motivations that the characters are struggling with or that they're wrestling with? And that's something that I have to do when I'm figuring out, okay, we have an employee that's being passive aggressive in his emails, and yet when you dug into the deeper reason and kind of talked to him about it in a respectful way, just basically also putting the boundary of, hey, this isn't okay, you find out, oh, he's actually been having a lot of issues with his family and his mom's incredibly sick. So being able to evaluate people and their motivations, similar to how we were doing for the characters of the Great Questions, is so helpful in my work today and is a very big part of that.
In a way, it complicated the simple things, but by complicating the simple things, it makes you be aware of how much, going back to faith, of how much we place faith on certain things. Like, whoa, line's a line. Well, explain what a line is.
And so there's that bridge. You're taking something kind of logical, something technical, and then being able to understand it to the point where you can express it to another person in plainer English. And I think that type of skill really plays into what I do today, because I kind of work as this intermediary person who's going from, whoa, this is super technical, and then here's what it actually means for you in your job, and here's what we're going to do about it.
It's a different kind of class than you're used to in high school, sitting for hours in classrooms and just given like a list of problems to work through. And so it's a lot more intellectually stimulating. You get to know your classmates in a way that you don't usually do.
None of us fully understood everything, but we figured it out together, and that was a very enjoyable moment, bonding over trying to stumble through these straight lines and curved edges and angles and compasses and what. So that was fun.
It's just this, I guess, freedom for the first time you really get of having these just long classroom discussions. There's no like quizzes per se. It's just what are you understanding from what you're getting from it? Like, how does it making you feel? And it's just something I would say is very unique, in a learning setting if you've never experienced that before.
I would definitely say that it's working with the Great Questions, being a student in class, are some of my fondest memories, because that was really where it started to kind of click for me, that it was I can actually take similar experiences like this and I can build a life for myself, whereas I'm doing the same thing as maybe over different subjects every day.
It stays with you. I mean, I don't remember stoichiometry, but I remember the conversations I had in Great Questions. And so I think in terms of what you walk away with long term, you walk away with community, and you walk away with insights that you'll keep pondering for a while. And I think that's really special.
We're all in our own hero's journey. We leave home, we leave the nest for whatever reasons, but we come back. You know what I mean? But the story has more to do with the journey, and not necessarily getting from one point to the other, but it's the whole journey.